Hi, I'm Judith Richards. I'm the creator of TRTP, or the Richards Trauma Process. Welcome. Greetings. Welcome to this podcast. Today, I'm going to speak about anger. Anger. We're all human. We all experience anger. We all need to express that. If we don't experience that anger, if we don't express it, there's something wrong. It will be expressed in other ways. We may get sick. There's lots of research on that, which I won't go into now. But I'd like to talk about a particular type of anger today. We're all familiar with the slow build-up of irritation, frustration, resentment. Yeah, we all know about that. And we can learn how to be aware that pressure is building. We can all learn how to step away, how to bring ourselves down, to learn techniques to do that. Yeah, we're not going to go into that today. We're going to talk about a different type of anger. Not just the anger of, enforcing boundaries. You're in my space, step back. No, which is very healthy. We're going to talk about a particular anger. Okay, how do I explain it? When a client would come to see me and say, I have anger problems, I'd say, okay, is it the slow build-up of frustration, irritation, resentment, and then you go off and explode? Or is it more like throwing a lit match at petrol and boom? And I go, yeah, that's it. And I go, yes. They go, why are you pleased about that? It's terrible. I know it's terrible. It's an area, it's something that's so close to my heart. Why? Because I lived with it for so many years. It's one of the most distressing symptoms of trauma. I'm talking big T trauma, big stuff. Because there's little t trauma, everyday trauma, and there's big T trauma. I'm talking about big stuff here. And one of the most distressing symptoms, distressing for the person who's suffering from it, certainly, and distressing for the people around that person who is suffering. Some of you listening to this will know all about this because you've lived with someone who's suffering with what I call trauma rage. And some of you know it firsthand, and I'm really sorry that that's your experience. For years, I wrestled with this, trying to find a way to turn it off. And unfortunately, a lot of health and mental health professionals are not aware that there's a difference between anger that's difficult to control and trauma rage. We can learn to deal with that buildup of anger, but it goes straight from the unconscious to expression without going through the conscious mind. There is no break that we can put on. This is what makes it so difficult. I say to mental health professionals, who here deals with anger management? Lots of people put their hands up. And then I explain that this type of anger, you can't do anything with anger management because the conscious mind has no moment to manage it. Okay, so enough of how unmanageable it is. Why do people have to, what is the cause of it? Well, what is the source? If a fire department turns up to put out a fire and they're just putting their hoses on the flames, the fire will continue. They have to find the source and put the fire out at the source. So what is the source of this trauma rage? It's the trauma. We have to turn that off. Okay, let me explain how it works. And I won't go on and on, I promise. In a regulated system, okay, a system that's not been under too much distress, what happens after we have a life-threatening event, a big distressing event? So let's take away the word trauma and just say distress. After a big distressing event, a regulated system realizes it's over and I'm safe now. The danger has passed. And the part of the brain, the hippocampus, does its job of taking that event and putting it in the right file, in the right drawer, in the right filing cabinet, in the warehouse of long-term memory, and shuts the big door. And we go, oh, that's over and we're safe. And the body returns to calm. The heart rate comes back to normal, respiration, the adrenaline, etc., the stress hormones are cleared from the system. We don't have to go for a 3-week yoga retreat in a cave on a top of a mountain. The body just comes back to homeostasis. It's extraordinary what the body does. And we can just go, oh, well, what's next on today's agenda? And we get on with it. And that's another thing. So many people who say, why can't I just get on with my life? You know, that event was 9 years ago. Why can't I just get on with my life? Well, if you're one of those people who ask that, lean in. Because in a dysregulated system, one that's been under too much distress for too long, too many distressing events have happened, it gets out of whack. And the hippocampus, whose job is to take the event once it's over and go, it's over and we're safe now, let's put it in long-term memory, shut the door and we can get on with our day. It doesn't do it. It goes on strike. So what happens to that event was never brought to an end. It's never put in long-term memory. So what happens? It gets stored in the unconscious as if it's still happening. And the unconscious runs our body. We don't have to think to keep our heart going, thank goodness. So the unconscious runs every electrical response, every chemical reaction in our body. And that event, that big event, is still happening in our unconscious as if it's happening now. And so our body still is responding, reacting as if that's happening now. So that event when I was 12 and when I was 9 and 17 and 24, the body, when it's dysregulated, is still reacting as if those events are happening now. So we are constantly in a state of fight, flight, freeze. Fight. Anger. Just saying. And this eruption of anger comes from the unconscious to expression without us willing it, without us wanting it to do that. And that's that lit match at petrol. That's a solar flare that comes from nowhere, that incinerates everything in front of it, which is usually our loved ones who are in our space, who are near us. So what do we do to stop it? Well, like the fire department, we find the source and we put it out. So we find out what were those events, and we only need to turn off the top 3 most distressing past events. The others will just turn off automatically, and that trauma rage just disappears. It just disappears. How do I know? Because it did for me, and it has done for I don't know how many hundreds, perhaps thousands of people now with TRTP. I used to specialize in violent, angry men brought against their will. People like, let's call him Peter, who was brought to me after smashing every window in his ex-wife's house, every panel in her car, breaking her guitar over his head, and he was pulled off strangling her. He didn't succeed, thank goodness. He was a very angry man. He had big trauma rage. I worked with him. We had a very long session, over 2 hours, and at the end of that, he had no more. He was safe. Everyone was safe. I'm not going to go into the whole details of it, but that's what happened. I followed Peter and people like him. I smile because I just love these guys. I've followed them for 12 years now, and no trauma rage, none of those lit match at petrol solar flare events. Not because they've learned to control it, to manage their anger, because you can't manage trauma rage. They have learnt how to manage their slow burn and build up of irritation, frustration, resentment. They've learned how to recognize it, to observe it, to notice it, to step away, to breathe in particular ways, to bring their nervous system down. Because we're human and life happens and we get angry. Yeah. But that trauma rage has disappeared and hasn't come back. So if you, and I'm really sorry if you have, if you suffer with, if you recognize what I'm talking about in what you experience, that lit match at petrol anger, or if there's someone in your life who does, I hope this explains it and gives you hope, because it can just be turned off. And isn't that fabulous? The body can be, the whole being can be. Have you ever done a factory sorry, frog in my throat. Have you ever done a factory reboot on your phone? I'm not talking, have you ever done a factory reboot on your phone? I'm not talking about just turning it on and off, reboot. I'm talking about factory reboot, where you take it back to how it was when you bought it. Yep. If someone has trauma rage, that's what we need to do. And the symptoms simply disappear. We turn off the distress of the past, the hippocampus, we wake that up, it gets into gear, it takes those distressing events, puts them in the right filing cabinet in the warehouse of long-term memory. We shut the door, and the whole system returns to calm. So there we are. Why is it helpful to know about this? To know there's a difference between that slow burn of pressure on anger, where eventually there's an explosion or not, if you learn to manage it, or this lit match at petrol anger. Why is it important to know about this? So that we can recognize it perhaps in ourselves. And you'll know, because it'll be a huge problem for you, or we can recognize it in those around us. It's important. It's a part of the human condition that we don't have to be in that much pain. We just don't. Let's just do something together now, just for that other type of anger. You know, that gradually building anger. Just notice. We can notice that our heart is going faster. We're starting to sweat perhaps. We're gritting our jaw, clenching our fists. We know when we're getting really angry. If we can step away and try this. Do it with me. Take a breath and then a top-up breath and hold it with me. Ready? Take a breath. And top it up as much as you can. as much air in those wonderful lungs as possible. And now just breathe out really slowly. Slowly, slowly. Let's do it again. Take a deep breath. And now top it up with as much air as you can. Hold it. And breathe out really, really slowly. And take another. Take a deep breath. Do a top up. As much air as you can. And breathe out slowly, slowly, slowly. We can do this inconspicuously in a supermarket, at a red light in our car. It's a good one. It calms our autonomic nervous system. Here's another one. Breathe in slowly and hold it for a moment. And breathe out slower than you breathed in. Breathe out slowly, slowly. Good. Take another slow, deep breath in. Hold it just for a moment and breathe out slowly, slowly, slowly. Good. Take another slow, deep breath in. Hold it. And this time just notice what parts of your body move as you breathe out slowly. Slowly. Let's just do one more. Take in a slow, deep breath and notice what parts of your body move. Even your back, even your arms. And breathe out slowly, slowly. Just notice how much of your body moves with each breath. And just breathe normally. You can do it at a red light in your car. You can do it anytime. Go gently. Be kind to yourself. I'll see you on the next podcast. Thanks.